Ladies and gentlemen, your favorite white colonizing Zionist prince. Look at the shirt. It says it right here. White colonizer. Get your merch on thetravelingclat.com. I'm Tal, the Traveling Clat. Let's take a look at this clip.
These young men approach this act with strong belief and love for God to defend their religion and their homeland. Nobody forces them to do it.
A kindergarten in the Palestinian-controlled Gaza Strip. Clean, well-organized, it's run by an Islamic welfare organization, the same organization that sends suicide bombers into Israel and is now one of the major obstacles on the road to peace. A crippled priest is the spiritual leader of this extremist sect. Sheikh Yassin founded Hamas 10 years ago. For the last 8 years, he has been in an Israeli prison accused of giving his blessing to murder. Since his release last month, Yassin has quickly become the focus of many Palestinian hopes at a time when negotiations with Israel seem deadlocked. From his base in this small concrete mosque, the influence of the paralyzed Sheikh Yassin is spreading throughout Gaza and the West Bank. For his appeal is essentially a simple one. He is a man who continues to define the ultimate objective as the removal of the State of Israel. A man who is prepared to approve the sending of young people on suicide bomb attacks on the promise that they will go to heaven. At the time of his release, there were some hopes that Sheikh Yassin might agree a truce. But speaking to me, he said there will be more suicide bombings.
These young men approach this act with strong belief and love for God to defend their religion and their homeland. Nobody forces them to do it.
At the village of Asira al-Shamaliya on the West Bank, they are counting the cost. 4 of the last 5 suicide bombers came from here. Their remains linked to relatives by Israeli DNA tests. Now their families are waiting for the inevitable punishment of seeing their homes destroyed by the Israeli army. Mohammed Jira has been told that his house will be filled with cement. Hamas operations are threatening to undermine the credibility of the Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat, and they undoubtedly provide propaganda and justification for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But Hamas leaders claim that there is no other way. Last month, Khaled Mashal survived an Israeli assassination attempt by chemical spray. He says that suicide bombings are an effective weapon in spite of the revulsion they provoke in the West.
If we just use words, Israel will not listen. When Israelis pay the price of occupation, then they will think about withdrawal.
Where does Israel have to withdraw to? To the sea?
Yes.
The strength of Hamas is in the young minds that it has entered. The movement is now present in schools and colleges throughout the Palestinian areas. The seeds of hate and the readiness to die for it have already been passed to the next generation. Julian Mannion, News at 10, Jerusalem.
I want to summarize the Palestinian perspective. One word. Right here.
Where does Israel have to withdraw to? To the sea?
Yes.
Yes. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about Palestine/Gaza and the Palestinian perspective / the Gazan perspective, I don't know what will. That's the complete picture right there. A reporter asking a legitimate question, where does Israel have to withdraw to? The sea? And him going, yes. Don't be mistaken. It's not much more well thought out than that. That wasn't a lazy answer. That was the answer. The answer is there is no end goal. They know they can't push the Jews out to the sea. They know it's not actually possible. What they're willing to do is because they make millions upon millions of dollars. Millions upon millions of dollars of embezzling and throwing their own civilian population under the bus. Civilian population, yes. Under the bus. They make millions upon millions of dollars. Billions of dollars by continuing this conflict forever and never actually seeking any sort of end or peaceful solution to it. They don't want a peaceful solution to it, not the leaders of Hamas, not the leaders in Gaza, not the leaders of the Palestinian people. And here's just another thing to add into the hypocrisy. Sheikh Yassin, who founded Hamas, the crippled man, this man right here in the interview, Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, I believe, and I may be misquoted here, okay? So don't take my word for it. Not that I care much about a Hamas member's perspective, but just in general, just don't take me at surface value, a grain of salt here, because I'm not sure if I'm right about this. But wasn't he involved in like a homosexual scandal in the founding of Hamas? I know that there was a big homosexual scandal in Gaza, but wasn't he also like kind of playing fun with other Hamas boys? I'm just saying, if you want full-on hypocrisy, look no further more than Hamas, who goes on to tout and murder homosexuals in the Gaza Strip for being homosexuals while actively engaging in homosexuality while making billions of dollars. I believe that Sheikh Yassin was killed by an Israeli airstrike at a certain point. He was assassinated. But that ideology, I mean, I want to say he invented the ideology behind Hamas, but it's not like he actually invented the ideology behind Hamas. It's existed. This idea of violent muqawama, resistance against the state of Israel, has existed since before the creation of the state of Israel. It's actually, the ideology behind it is resisting to the idea of Jewish people living in your land, because these kinds of Muslims have a very big inferiority complex where they feel threatened. Their masculinity feels somewhat threatened by the idea of a dirty dog Yehudi Jew being in control sovereignly of their own land. I don't know. They got to sort themselves out and their whole masculinity thing out first. I'm not sure if that'll ever really happen, but they really got to sort that shit out first before it's a really big mess. They really need to sort out their things. I think a lot of it has to do with daddy issues too. There's a lot of problems in the Arab world. I mean, I can't be the therapist for all of it, but I know a lot of you guys reach out from the Arab world to say hi, to let me know that what I'm talking about is right. And the reality is there's a lot of daddy issues. A lot of daddies aren't available emotionally, and not a lot of mommies are too oppressed to actually be able to speak and give you guidance in life. And you end up with a society of 2 billion people or 400 million Arabs who just don't function well in the world. Like, it's hard for Arabs to play well with others. And there is a superiority complex, which is really, really problematic. And again, this really tells you the whole story of Palestine in one picture. It's not that this man was an underdog. It's not that this man was like had a heroic story. He was a crippled sheikh who preached violence and convinced people, like a cult leader, to commit suicide in honor of a failing cause. That's failing till this day. And then they got their apartheid wall, and then they can't do the suicide bombings anymore. They try to do the suicide bombings, but they fail miserably every single time. So what is this man's legacy? One of pure embarrassment. His legacy is what Gaza looks like today. But that's the Palestinian story. Continuously supporting and uplifting people who make mistakes. Continuously uplifting people who are nefarious and who are evil. It's just a continuous... What happened when we killed Yahya Sinwar? He threw a fucking stick after hiding in a hijab, in a burqa for months underground, surrounding himself by innocent women so he wouldn't be killed by an airstrike. He threw a stick at a fucking drone, and that was seen as like the ultimate legacy of Palestine. It tells you everything you need to know about the society. I really have nothing else I can add. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you guys a long time. Please buy some White Colonizer merch in the description below to support the channel, thetravelingcloud.com. And I'll see you then. Love you guys. Bye-bye. Leaving my content and want to support me, just know your help is needed. There's a bunch of great ways to support me, being PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or joining my Patreon community down below. Patreon is the best way to support my channel, and you'll get a bunch of cool perks depending on what tier you join. Another great way to support me is by buying my merchandise on thetravelingclat.com. I regularly drop new merch designs like this beautiful hat, or this amazing shirt, where you can support the channel and get something cool for yourself. I also have an amazing Discord community with people from all over the world. Thank you so much for your support.